Okay, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about function notation. So, as you can see in this first example, fx, what f is, it's a function. This x is the variable. So as you can see, f of x equals 2x plus 3. So whatever's in parentheses is your variable, and it should be in your equation. So what we're going to do is I'm going to demonstrate this by using several what we call inputs. So some of us may have heard inputs in school. Inputs are x value. In this case, it's what's in parentheses. Our output is what our answer is, which is technically our y value. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in, and I always like doing this first of all. I like putting 2 and then parentheses where my x value is, and then add 3. So that means in all of these, all I have to do is put in -2, 2, and 0, and then go ahead and start to finish out the problem. So now look at the first one. 2 times -2, that's -4. I'm still going to add my 3. My part B is 2 times 2, which is 4, plus 3. And finally, I like using 0 because 2 times 0 is 0, plus 3. Now carry out the final step is to just go ahead and solve. -4 plus 3 is -1. 4 plus 3 is 7. And 0 plus 3 is 3. We can move on down. Next example is f of x equals -4x plus 7. And notice my x right here means I have to have my variable to be x as well. Now, I always like to put in -4 and then in parentheses, that's where my x or my input is going to go, and plus 7. I'm going to do this with all 3 of my parts of this problem. So then all I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in -3, 5, and 0. Now I'm going to carry out these operations. So -4 times -3. Remember, 2 negatives when you multiply, that's a positive 12 plus 7. I've got a -4 and a positive 5. That gives me -20 plus 7. And then -4 times 0 is 0 plus 7 is now we need to carry this out. We need to say, okay, 12 plus 7 is 19. -20 plus 7 is -13. And 0 plus 7 is 0. My third one. Now, some of us are going to shut down. Some of us are going to shake your head, roll your eyes, because you see a fraction involved. So I've got this f of x, and notice my x is in parentheses. That means my variable has to be x. So now what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go ahead and say 1/2, parentheses -3. I'm going to do this in all of them. And now I'm going to input what my x values are. It's going to be 2, -2, and 0. Now, one thing I do like about any of these inputs, if you look at the denominator, in this case, of the fraction, which is 2, right here, 2 and then multiples of 2 will always cancel the amount, so you're not going to have a fraction. So when we say 2 times 2, that gives me 1. 1 times 1 is 1 minus 3. And 1 minus 3 is a -2. I can do the same thing with my -2. Now 2's cancel, but what you're left is with -1 now. 1 times -1 is -1 minus 3. So if you owe me $1 and owe me $3, you owe me a total of $4. So that's what your answer is, -4. And finally, 1/2 times 0 is just 0 minus 3. And 0 minus 3 is -3. So the fractions are not that bad, especially if the denominator is the same thing with the multiples of in this case, 2. What about when we have an exponent in here? Well, we still do the same process. We're going to put my input of 3, 2, and -2. Now, one common mistake that I do see in these will be 3 times 2 is 6. No, remember it's squared. It's 3 times itself twice. So 3 times 3 is 9. 9 minus 3. Look at my 2 squared. It's 2 times 2, which is 4 minus 3. And finally, -2 times a 2 is a +3 minus 3. And if I go ahead and carry out these operations, I get 9 minus 3 is 6. 4 minus 3 is 1. 4 minus 3 is 1. Now I've got 2 more I'm going to throw in here. -3. So if you want to pause this and work this yourself, you can at any time. -3 and 0. So -3 times -3, that's what the square means, gives you 2 negatives make a positive, 9 minus 3. And I like 0 because 0 squared is 0, and I still got my -3. 9 minus 3 is 6. 0 minus 3 is -3. Now I want to show you all something with exponents. Look at this, since they're all squared, take a look at your 3 right here and your -3. They're the same answer. Take a look at 2 and -2. They're the same answer. Let's just say I'm not asking you this, but if you put in 4 and -4, think about this for a second. 4 squared is 16. 16 minus 3 is 13. Then if I put a -4, -4 squared is 16 also. Minus 3 is 13. So that's one way to check yourself. And finally, my last example of this function notation. Two, and then I'm going to put 3, -1, and 0 in. So a common mistake that I do see is we try to multiply these, 2 times 3 to give me 6 and then square that. That is not how you do it. You have to go ahead and you have to square the 3 first to give you 9 and then plus 4. Same thing with the part B. You still have your 2, but then you say -1 squared, which is a +1 plus 4. And finally, 0 squared times 2 is 0. I like this one, plus 4. So 2 times 9 is 18. 18 plus 4 is 22. Next, I've got 2 times 1 is just a 2, plus 4 is 6. And finally, 0 plus 4 is 4. I hope this kind of gives you some insight about how we input values to get an output, and also that whatever our input is that's in parentheses, so in this case, on this example, f of x, x is going to be the variable we use. Thank you very much for listening.